is something that has been a phenomenon that's existed in America throughout many years. If, for instance, 101 years ago, President Woodrow Wilson was afflicted by a massive stroke at the White House on October 1st. And there have been other big events that have happened and throughout history. And of course, last election, there was a big October surprise then, and that involved Hillary Clinton. So let us take a look back to 2016, and let's look at this amazing situation as it relates now to the year 2020 and the presidential election this year. So back in 2016, right up the months leading up to the election, the New York Times and the fake news media were putting out these presidential polls, these election polls, who was going to win the 2016 presidential election. And a New York Times prediction model claims that Hillary Clinton will win the election. So on July 16th, 2016, the New York Times put out what they called a presidential prediction model, introducing the upshot presidential prediction model. This article on the New York Times said, again, this is July 16, 2016. And they said then, back in July of 2016, that Hillary Clinton had a 75% chance that she was going to win the election. After all, it was, as she stated herself, it was her turn to become president. Everyone else had their chance. Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and now it was Hillary's turn. She was ordained to become the first woman president. Well, the military intelligence, the patriot groups, and the American people had a different idea on that, as you well know. On October 18, 2016, the New York Times put out another election poll. Now, in a matter of 2 days, Hillary Clinton has a 91% chance to win the election. In other words, there's less than 1 in 10 chance that Donald Trump was going to win this election. It's all but done. Hillary has a 90+ chance to win the election. The odds are totally in her favor, according to the New York Times. Then, on October 20th, it went up to 92%. Donald Trump had 8% chance of winning the election. This was their updated forecast from the New York Times, October 20th, 2016. Then, a survey on November 5th, 2016, found that Hillary Clinton has more than a 99% chance of winning the election over Donald Trump. Yep, 99%. So it's like, why bother to go vote, right? It's a done deal. Hillary's going to win. 99%. That was put out by the Independent newspaper in the United Kingdom. Then on election night, November 8, 2016, I guess the New York Times decided to hedge their bet a little bit. And suddenly Hillary's chances of winning went from 92% down to 85%, meaning Donald Trump had a 15% chance to win the election. What happened? I guess the New York Times kind of figured out that there was a change in the air. And that was November 8th, the day of the election. The New York Times put out that poll. The New York Times poll says Hillary Clinton has an 85% chance to win on election night 2016. Boy, were they wrong. Boy, were they catastrophically wrong. Man, did they really blow it. Or did they? Or was it all just phony baloney propaganda that they were putting out? And it didn't have any meaning whatsoever because it was all fake. that was more likely. Of course, that was the case. In 2019, then the fake news media tried to convince the American people that Donald Trump was not only behind Sleepy Joe Biden in the national polls, but also behind Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. He was trailing all of them as well. This is before they decided on Joe Biden to be their 2020 Democratic candidate. Now, here in the year 2020, the fake news media polls are even worse. They've been telling us all along that Joe Biden is leading the race by as much as 10, 15 points. Now, the new poll that just came out, and this is came out on the 10th of October, 2020. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden leads President Trump by 5 points nationally. A Hill Harris X survey released Friday reveals. And this is after the Democratic Convention where things started to shift a little bit. Now, the Democratic National Convention, of course, was a total dumpster fire, train wreck disaster. It was terrible. So the national polls say that Biden's lead over Trump shrinks to 3 points. This was on August the 9th. President Trump passes Joe Biden National Rasmussen survey for the first time. Approval rating soars to 52%. That was on September the 16th. And on October 9th, a poll said that 56 Americans say they are better off now under Trump than 4 years ago under Obama Biden. And just this week, just the other day, on the 9th, more good news. 49% of Americans say their neighbors are voting for Trump. Now, Joe Biden said in an article on Fox News, he says, chicanery, quote, chicanery, he used the word chicanery at the polls, is the only way he could lose the U.S. election. The only way we lose this is by the chicanery going on relative to polling places, Sleepy Joe said the other day. So we've been having these debates. Of course, the first debate was on September 29th, and it's sponsored by, the debates are run by this organization called the Commission on Presidential Debates. This is nothing but a swamp, Washington, D.C., murky, shadowy, deep state organization. Of course, Chris Wallace was the moderator for the first debate and who is a Democrat, who got into a debate with President Trump, even though he's supposed to be the moderator, favored Joe Biden, didn't chastise or lecture Joe Biden. And so President Trump on the 6th of October said, Chris Wallace was a total joke. Protected Joe all night long. He's no Mike. In other words, Mike Wallace, his father, the famous 60 Minutes reporter. And indeed, Chris Wallace was absolutely dreadful. Just a horrible moderator, biased and disruptive and disrespectful to Donald Trump the entire night. Now, the second presidential debate was scheduled for this week on the 15th, but the wonderful Presidential Debate Commission decided we're going to change the format. We're not going to let anybody know. And they decided, since President Trump had tested positive for the coronavirus, they were going to make the debate not in person, but virtual. In other words, Joe Biden could sit in his basement and read his teleprompter, and President Trump would be at the White House or some other location, and that's how they would do the debate. So they could easily give Joe Biden a tremendous advantage, as they had planned to do. So the second presidential debate is in doubt because President Trump said No way. President Trump announces he will not participate in the next debate after Presidential Debate Commission changes debate format to virtual to help Joe Biden. And this was, I think, a wise move by the president, because they're clearly trying to stack the deck. And in fact, the moderator for the second debate used to intern for Joe Biden, another compromised, nonpartisan moderator for the second debate. So Joe Biden was quoted saying, "I don't know what I'll do." Joe Biden is stunned after Trump announces he will not participate in the virtual debate. Instead, he'll hold a rally. So, lo and behold, the debate commission cancels the debate after President Trump pulls out, and leftist moderator Steve Scully, who was to be the moderator for the second debate on October 15th, is caught posting an anti-Trump tweet. So we have another compromised debate moderator who was hired by the Commission on Presidential Debates. What a shock. Now, the third presidential debate is very much in question, and the moderator for that, it was a female, suspends her Twitter account, quote, in order to be especially cautious. Now, the reason she's referring to Twitter is that Steve Scully had to apologize for a tweet he put out, which was sent to Anthony Scaramucci about President Trump, which appeared to be a biased tweet. And he was caught, and he claimed his Twitter account had been hacked. So you can see there's all kinds of corruption going on in these presidential debates. But guess what? As the Breitbart News reported, glorious implosion of Steve Scully and the Commission on Presidential Debates. Without discussing it with one of the two presidential campaigns, the corrupt Commission on Presidential Debates decided the second debate between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden would be a virtual debate. So they basically are self-destructing, folks, before our eyes. They're being exposed. And this is the brilliance and the amazing aspect of Donald Trump. He's exposing, shining the light on all of these corrupt Washington, D.C. swamp organizations and institutions. So Charlie Hurt, who's a writer for, I believe, the Washington Times, put out this article on Breitbart News. If the Democrats are really so far ahead, why are they acting so desperate? Let me read you this article. Current polls show that Joseph R. Biden anywhere from 10 to 20 points ahead of President Trump, a double-digit blowout. The whole election will come down to Mr. Trump's handling of the global pandemic, which extensive polling shows is where Mr. Trump is most vulnerable. In 2016, Mr. Trump barely won the election, and only because so many voters assumed he had no chance of winning and stayed home. Also, Russia. This year, Americans are exhausted. They might not particularly like Mr. Biden, but they desperately want a break from the current occupant of the White House. In short, we are 3 weeks away from an election that the president has no hope of winning. Every indicator suggests Mr. Trump will lose in a landslide. So I have a very simple question. If all this is actually true, and Democrats have the election so deep in the bag, why are they so terrified? Why, if this is such a done deal, are Democrats so desperate right now? It all started a few weeks ago, back when Democrats first hatched this conspiracy theory that the president was stealing postal trucks and rounding up blue mailboxes to prevent people from voting. Even by their insane standards, this was unhinged, moonback, cuckoo crazy. Then came all the dog whistle coo-winks we got from both Mr. Biden, his unbearable running mate, about how you are not actually voting for another 47 years of the Biden administration. It will be the Harris administration. Wink, wink. Senator Kamala D. Harris' disastrous performance during the vice presidential debate this week raises new concerns. Concerns already raised when she was soundly rejected by Democratic primary voters earlier this year. But that does not really matter. All that matters now is that the vote for Joe Biden is not really a vote for Joe Biden, but simply a vote against Donald Trump. That is literally all they have to offer. Never have the Democrat terrors been more obvious than when former President Barack Obama spoke during the Democratic convention and the former First Lady issued a fairly shocking video message to voters just this week. The fear etched in their faces was palpable. All hope and change were drained away. No sunny platitudes about, quote, one America and, quote, red, white, and blue, unquote, from their iconic 2008 campaign. It was all rage and fear. America is racist. Voters are racist. Democrats are racist. You are racist. If Mr. Biden has his thing in the bag and Democrats are on the cusp of sweeping this election, why are the two most popular standard bearers in the party so angry and so afraid? The fear was on full display during the vice presidential debate. Ms. Harris shamelessly peddled crazy lies about how she and Mr. Biden are not really going to ban fracking, despite repeated and clear promises to do just that. Nor are they actually in favor of shutting down the American economy forever in search of unicorns and fairy dust in the so-called Green New Deal, even though it remains posted on their website, their campaign website, for all to see. And then the dodges. They refuse to answer questions about how previous promises to provide free health care for illegal aliens, and they refuse to even discuss their plans for blowing up the Supreme Court. Craziest of all was listening to Ms. Harris peddle fear and lies and whack-nut conspiracies. Now, in the middle of a freaking global pandemic, the vice presidential nominee of a major political party in America openly admits that she is now an anti-vaxxer. Seriously? And the demagoguery. Quote, if you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone with a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. And the race baiting. Kamala Harris openly peddles the extensively conclusive debunked lie about how Mr. Trump somehow failed to condemn racists in Charlottesville, Virginia. Maybe all the polls are right this time. Maybe the president really is going to lose by 20 points. He and his supporters damn well better campaign in these last 3 weeks like they are losing. But if the polls are right, why are the Democrats so terrified? Well, the polls are not right. And they're totally fake, phony, false. Now think about this, folks. Think about what's been going on. President Donald Trump holds rallies all over America. He easily gets tens of thousands of people to show up for these rallies. Consistently, regularly, always. At the rallies, President Trump's supporters line up for days, sometimes days, ahead of time in order to be sure they can get into the rally. And they'll camp out in order to assure they have a seat or a place in the rally. And even on the roads coming from the airport leading to the rally venue, there are thousands of people lined up just to get a glimpse of President Trump's motorcade. And now, the latest development at the rallies is these crowds that come, they break into chants of, "We love Trump," or "We love you." they start chanting this at the rallies. They've been doing this lately. And at this point in time, folks, President Donald Trump is essentially treated like a rock star. He's so popular. He's wildly enthusiastic crowds. And they're clamoring to see him. They're clamoring to be in his presence. It's a phenomenon. It is a true phenomenon. However, when Joe Biden holds a rally, there may be a dozen people. They're all sitting in circles, social distancing. As Donald Trump said on Twitter, Joe Biden's rally, zero enthusiasm. Joe Biden looks tired. He stumbles, he mumbles, he makes gaffes. Occasionally, at most, there might be a couple hundred at a Joe Biden rally, but that's very rare. Now, the other day in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden held a rally, I guess in somebody's backyard. There were 4 people there, all social distancing, all wearing a mask, as well as Sleepy Joe, and there's an empty table in front of him. It was like a metaphor for Joe Biden's entire campaign. 4, I kid you not, folks, 4 people showed up for his rally. 4. And lately, you know what's happening when Joe Biden arrives into a town for one of his rallies? He is greeted by armies of Trump supporters. They outnumber the people that show up to greet Joe Biden outnumber the people that show up for his rally. It's truly amazing. And then, of course, there are the massive Trump boat parades now that are occurring all over the country, from California to Missouri to New York, Florida, and down in the southeastern part of the United States. These massive Trump boat rallies set records. Miami, for instance, just on the 10th, yesterday, Miami Police Department estimates more than 30,000 cars participated in an anti-communist Latinos for Trump caravan in South Florida. 30,000 cars, folks, showed up. Latinos. And also yesterday in Washington, D.C., thousands gathered for a Blue Lives Matter and Blexit to show their support for President Trump. Thousands met in a peaceful event in Washington, D.C. to support our police and walk away from the Democratic Party. That was just yesterday. Now, this past Friday, on October 9th, President Trump held the largest virtual rally on Rush Limbaugh's radio program from noon to 3 p.m. President Trump's massive audience radio rally with Rush Limbaugh on his radio program. And he set records for the number of people who tuned in to listen to him. Just listen to him on the radio for this rally, this virtual rally with Rush Limbaugh. And President Trump missed no words in a warning to Iran. During this virtual rally, President Trump drops the F-bomb during Rush Limbaugh's virtual reality, and he warned Iran not to F around with us. So something must be going on with Iran for him to say something like this. Now, this is all after, of course, President Trump has basically gone into the hospital to be treated for the coronavirus and basically came out of it almost stronger than ever. In fact, looking younger, and says that he feels 20 years, the best he's felt in 20 years. And Donald Trump says he is medication free after the coronavirus treatments now. And And he looks like Superman. As we mentioned to you, we read this article on our Wednesday program. And what Donald Trump has done is he's emerged like even stronger and more triumphant than ever before. It truly is something to behold. And it's really something, this phenomenon that we are witnessing. It's like Donald Trump just keeps getting stronger and stronger by the week as Joe Biden gets weaker and weaker. So you have to admit this is truly something amazing. And it's really something that I think is almost inexplainable in modern times. We've never seen a politician be given this kind of treatment. President Trump beats the Chinese coronavirus, shows no signs of disease on Tuesday afternoon. And as we read this article for you that Wayne Allen wrote, President Trump just became Captain America, and Democrats are losing their minds. Now, so let's think about this. We've got what we've just covered, all of this. With all of this that's been happening, that we've been discussing, with the rallies, with the people that are showing up, with the enthusiasm, with all of the just tremendous awareness and popularity of the president, with all of this energy and momentum towards President Trump, can you honestly believe that sleepy Joe Biden is actually leading in the polls? The guy who can hardly talk, who looks tired and worn out, who commits gaffe after gaffe after gaffe, who has 4 people show up in a rally in Pennsylvania, is leading in the polls, the national polls. Give me a break. It's very clear, folks, that the Patriots are now in control of the Democratic Party. And the Patriots are in control of the Joe Biden clone or double or look-alike, because that is not the real Joe Biden. There is no way that is the real Joe Biden. And the Patriots are slowly imploding the Democratic Party in order to red pill the American people. They are in charge of the party at this point. Because look what happened. Remember the Iowa caucus? Pete Buttigieg supposedly won it, and then I think they gave it to Bernie Sanders. And then Bernie Sanders won the next, I think it was the Vermont primary. And then finally Joe Biden just comes out of nowhere and won in South Carolina. And then he kind of just started to gain all this momentum like magically. But they forced Bernie Sanders, the DNC forced Bernie Sanders out of the race. They conspired together to work to get Bernie Sanders out. Bernie Sanders would have been a much tougher opponent for Donald Trump. Then the DNC picked, of all the Democratic candidates, which most of them, all of them were horrible, they picked the weakest of all in Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is a perennial loser. He's had to drop out of 2 other campaigns. He's been caught plagiarizing. He's been caught cheating. He's been caught lying. And on it goes. Then they forced Joe Biden to select the most radical and unpopular Democratic running mate as vice president in Kamala Harris. Extremely unlikable person and one of the least popular in all the Democratic establishment. And now, folks, it is possible, with all of the scandals emerging, and remember, we told you, they have opened a federal investigation now into Joe Biden. That was the big breaking news that we told you on Wednesday. Joe Biden is the subject of a federal criminal investigation into his role in Spygate and activities in the Ukraine. So this is really big news. Will Joe Biden be forced out of the race, have to drop out for all his scandal and open corruption? Remember when Joe Biden admitted to bribing or to extorting the Ukrainian government? He admitted to it. That was not the real Joe Biden either. Were the Patriots in control of that? So then we have to ask this question, folks. Will President Donald Trump be running totally unopposed in 2020 as we get closer to the election? And I remind you of the clue that was put out by the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, on Twitter on August 31st, 2020. And in this, Mike Pompeo posted a picture of himself with President Trump in the middle and Mike Pence on the right. And behind them was a portrait of President James Monroe, our fifth president of the United States of America. The interesting about James Monroe is that in 1816 presidential election, as James Monroe was running for his second term, he was opposed by the opposition party was the Federalist Party, but they could not come up with a candidate in 1816. And so James Monroe, who was part of the, believe it or not, the Democratic Republican Party, got 183 electoral votes, and the Federalist Party got 34. But Donald Trump could essentially sweep the entire country if for some reason Joe Biden had to drop out. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. In fact, some psychics have been saying they don't see Donald Trump having an opposition to run against when the election rolls around. Now, Joe Biden said yesterday, quote, "I'm going to accept the outcome of the election without any questions," unquote. So he's pledging that he's going to accept the outcome. Meanwhile, listen to this. On Friday, President Trump's campaign pulled their ads from Ohio and Iowa, as internal polling shows President Trump is way up in critical swing states. In fact, he's up in all the swing states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Florida. So are they giving a clue that they know what's up here, the Trump campaign? And more incredible Trump car and truck boat rallies are happening all over the country. As yesterday provided another example of how different campaigns in the pursuit of the White House. And this article came out today. The Trump campaign is looking ahead as polling numbers exceed 2016, and the overall picture looks very good. President Trump's team is excited about his chances in this year's elections, despite the slanted Biden polls. For one, even the current Real Clear Politics polling averages in the swing states look better than the last election. The Real Clear Politics uses averages from the polls in place to come up with their result. In theory, this makes sense unless the polls you're averaging are garbage. In that case, the old axiom applies. Garbage in, garbage out. Now, so on Thursday of this week, October the 8th, Nancy Pelosi gets up in front of the media, pure desperation, breaking news, stone cold crazy. Nancy Pelosi announces a BS investigation into President Trump's mental health. Democrats are desperate. Don't believe the fake news polls for 1 second. Democratic Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced an investigation into President Donald Trump's mental and physical health on Friday, less than 4 weeks until the presidential election. Pelosi is broadcasting the Democratic Party's desperation. Pelosi to announce a bill to form a 25th Amendment congressional commission to study removing Trump from office. This decrepit old witch, Nancy Pelosi, wearing a face mask that looks like it came from her sofa, gets up there and actually questions Donald Trump's mental health. I mean, can you make this stuff up? See now old Nancy's questioning Donald Trump, the genius president we have. Republicans are baffled by Pelosi's 25th Amendment suggestion. Says she wants to stage a coup. The 25th Amendment allows for the vice president to become acting president if the president is, quote, unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. However, a Trump legal advisor, Jenna Ellis, stomps on Pelosi's latest coup attempt. The Democrats need the vice president to sign on the 25th Amendment scam. Sorry, Nancy. So remember now, believe it or not, that's not the real Mike Pence in the office of vice president. Now, then on Friday, October the 9th, Secretary of the State Mike Pompeo dropped a bombshell. Breaking news. Mike Pompeo says he has Hillary Clinton's deleted emails and will begin releasing them before Election Day. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Friday dropped a little October surprise and said his department has Hillary Clinton's deleted emails and will release them before the election. We're getting them out, Pompeo told Fox News' Dana Perino. We'll get all of this information out so the American people can see them, Pompeo said. There will be more to see before the election. So listen to Mike Pompeo interviewed on Fox News with Dana Perino. Very short clip here. Let's play this first audio clip for you.
So what is the state of this investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails at the State Department?
So, Dana, you'll remember I was close to this even when I was a member of Congress, when I served on the Benghazi Committee now, what seems like a little bit time ago. We've got the emails. We're getting them out. We're going to get all this information out so the American people can see it. You'll remember.
Okay. So guess what, folks? This is part of the plan. This is part of the operation. As was posted on Twitter by an anon, Absolute 1776, there will be no arrests before the election. The emails come first. The emails, that's Hillary's emails, are how you introduce all of this to the public. The emails will then lead to the arrests. And how perfect that nearly 4 years ago to the day, the emails will be their undoing. Boomerang. So, if you recall, back in 2016, the October surprise was WikiLeaks releasing Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails. And where did they come from? They came from Seth Rich, a disgruntled DNC employee who saw that the fix was in for Hillary. And Hillary Clinton email leaks, WikiLeaks documents claim Democratic nominees think Saudi Arabia and Qatar fund ISIS, as the Independent reported in the UK. Now, guess when those emails were released, folks? That's right. October 11th, 2016. That's 4 years exactly from today that occurred. So guess what's probably going to happen this week? They're going to release all the Hillary emails to red pill the American people. Meanwhile, let's go back to October 8th. Senator Chuck Grassley, who's clearly part of the intelligence Q team or associated with them, put out this message on Twitter. And he wrote, "I've been pushing FBI for transparency on Russiagate for years. We now know," and he spells know, K-N-O without a W. "CIA was part of the info gathering, but CIA won't even talk to me on the phone. Americans deserve answers. Yesterday, Senator Johnson and I reviewed a renewed call for CIA docs. Transparency brings accountability." So he misspells the word transparency and leaves out the A and the R. So all the missing letters, the W, the A, and the R spell out war. In other words, the Patriots are at war with the deep state right now. That's what you decode. Now you remember that on September 16th, Q put out the Mickey Mouse clock, and the time was 10 after 10, 10:10. But actually, it was a code for October 2nd, 2:10, or 10:2, because one hand of Mickey Mouse was on the 10 and the other was on the 2. And that's when President Trump put out his tweet about contracting the coronavirus. And this is a Disney Echo wall clock, the Disney Mickey Mouse edition, which is purchased on Amazon.com. Well, guess what? The press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, did a bunch of interviews this week on, you guessed it, 10:10. And behind her was a clock, a little white clock on the shelf behind her. And guess what? The little hand was on the 10, the big hand was on the 2. 10:10. So, Chuck Grassley again decided to tweet about this. He says here, Kayleigh McEnany, Trump presser, has been on Fox News several times lately for isolation location. She needs to put a new battery in that little clock behind her. It stopped at 10:10. Again, echoing the Q drop that we just mentioned to you, which was number 4730 from September 16th, and the picture of the Mickey Mouse clock. So how about all of that, folks? That's what's going on behind the scenes. Now, let's talk about the other big news of the week. Now, let's go back to this huge development that occurred on Tuesday, October 6th. And President Trump put out this tweet. Now, this is about the stimulus. Listen to this carefully. President Trump said at 7:18 p.m. on October 6, 2020, "If I am sent a standalone bill for stimulus checks of $1,200, they will go out to our great people immediately. I am ready to sign right now. Are you listening, Nancy?" So President Trump has promised that as soon as he's reelected, there's going to be a second round of stimulus payments. Let's go to Wednesday, October 7th. Now, we told you how many of the people associated with President Trump who tested positive for COVID, and these include, of course, Donald and Melania Trump, First Lady, Hope Hicks, Senior Advisor, Bill Stepien, Trump Campaign Manager, Chris Christie, former New Jersey Governor, Kellyanne Conway, former White House Senior Advisor, Ronna McDaniel, RNC chairwoman, Mike Lee, senator from Utah, Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, Nick Luna, President Trump's personal attendant, Kayleigh McEnany, press secretary, Chad Gilmartin, White House press office, Carolyn Levitt, White House press office, Jalen Drummond, assistant press secretary, Charles Ray, the vice commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard, and Jana McCarran, Coast Guard aide to the president. Well, then we learned that top military leaders are self-quarantining after positive coronavirus test at the Pentagon. Senior Pentagon leadership in quarantine after exposure to coronavirus by Coast Guard commander. Coast Guard Admiral Charles Ray tested positive Monday after experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 over the weekend. Pentagon's Joint Chiefs in quarantine after Coast Guard officer tests positive. Then this article from The Hill came out on 7th, and it was a rather interesting headline. Said COVID-19 sparks national security concerns with top military brass in quarantine. Now, why do you suppose they all announced they had coronavirus and went into quarantine? Do you think quarantine is a code word for a military operation ongoing right now that is extremely important and reaching a climactic point right now? Meanwhile, all this is going on. President Trump comes out and he says, he said this, quote, on the 7th, Trump says he will be offering a free COVID meds to Americans. I want everybody given the same treatment as your president. President Trump on Wednesday delivered another positive message to the American people from the White House. President Trump returned to the Oval Office on Wednesday and leftists went berserk. The president praised the medical team at Walter Reed for treating him after his COVID diagnosis and said after taking Regeneron, he immediately felt better. And he wants us to offer this to all Americans for free. Now that night, Wednesday, the 7th, was another debate, the vice presidential debate from Salt Lake City, Utah, between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence. Kamala Harris falsely claims President Trump called COVID a hoax. Mike Pence hits back on Biden-Harris COVID plan with a zinger. Nasty Kamala Harris on the coronavirus vaccine. If Donald Trump tells us we should take it, I'm not taking it. Oh my God. Mike Pence just stomped on Kamala and debate moderator on transfer of power question. What about Obama? Mike Pence asks. And boom, Mike Pence destroys Kamala Harris on packing the Supreme Court. She just won't answer the question, Mike Pence said. And Kamala Harris, what a liar, pulled her 300,000 manufacturing jobs attack from a far-left prediction, which is not based on fact at all, as the U.S. has gained 146,000 jobs since the deal with Mexico and Canada. That was the USMCA. So Kamala Harris spent the entire night, just like Joe Biden did, in his debate with President Trump, lying to the American people continuously. And by all accounts, Mike Pence absolutely stomped her in the debate, completely wiped her out. Kamala Harris looked arrogant, rude, classless, while Mike Pence was the picture of calmness and cool and collected. CNN's Jake Tapper, tried to explain away Kamala's train wreck debate for us by saying she is a woman. That's why she was not treated well, because she's a woman. Can't have it both ways. And President Trump put out a tweet on 7:57 p.m. on October 7th. Mike Pence won big, he wrote. Meanwhile, a poll of CNN debate watchers says Kamala won by 59% compared to Mike Pence's 38%. The final result of the CNN debate poll. We know how reliable that is. Let's go to the Q drops for Wednesday night. These came after during our call. We didn't get a chance to cover these. So let's go over these. Q writes on Q drop 41818. Threats, bribes, and blackmail being deployed at unseen levels. Dirty laundry, blackmail, controls DC. Why are they protected? Threat, bribes, and blackmail, or sharing of like beliefs. Dark secrets. Let's see what happens. Q. Now, let's see what happens is in quotes. That's a quote from the president. Q drop 4819, October 7th. How many people in D.C. does Hillary Clinton have dirt on? How many people in D.C. does Hillary Clinton have or had on her payroll? Dark secrets, Q. Now, it is believed that the Clinton crime network, got control of the entire United States government back before Donald Trump was elected. Q drop 4820. Q writes, the Clinton Foundation in all caps. White House for sale, Q. Q drop 4821 from October 7th. What happens if Joe Biden became president knowing through Hunter plus two others took massive amounts of bribes to change or look the other way U.S. policy towards China in favor of China? Would China own and control the White House? Q. Q drop 4822. What happens if Joe Biden became president knowing he, through Hunter plus one other, took massive amounts of bribes to change and look the other way of U.S. policy towards the Ukraine in favor of the Ukraine? Would Ukraine own and control the White House? Q. Q drop 4823 from October 7th. Only the illusion of democracy, only the illusion of for the people. For the first time in a long, long time, our president stands with and for the people. All assets deployed, Q. How about that, folks? For the first time in decades, a president stands with the people. Q drop 4824, a link to President Trump's Twitter and a message from the president. Now, we played this video for you on our Wednesday night call. An amazing video message from the president talking about how great he feels and how he wants to share this medication that helped him cure the coronavirus for free for all American people. And Q adds, combat tactics, Mr. Ryan. Q. Who is Mr. Ryan? Paul Ryan, former Speaker of the House, who was attempting to put together what was called the New Republic in competition with the Restored Republic, working on behalf of the cabal. Q drop 4825, a link to the governor of New York. And on the website we find number 202.67, continuing temporary suspension and modification of laws relating to the disaster emergency. So basically, all the disaster emergency ends after the election. As this quote, Q quotes this executive order. It says, "This executive order shall remain in effect until November 3rd, 2020." And then Q asks, "Was this ever about the virus?" Q. Q.4826. Joe 30330. Is that arbitrary? Q asks. What is 2020 current year divided by 30330? The symbolism will be their downfall. Q. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting what Q is saying here? Now let's, I meant to do this, but I'm going to open up my calculator. And just like Q said, you take 30330 and you divide it by 2020. And you get 15.01. So that's interesting. What does that number refer to? Q.4827. And this is a link to a YouTube video, 2 Steps from Hell, Freedom Fighters. It's a music video, another music video that Q has asked us to listen to. And Q asks, can music be healing? Q. Let's go to Q drop number 4828. Do you remember when the media had wall-to-wall live in-fear coverage regarding North Korea? Do you remember when Hawaii accidentally sounded the incoming missile alarm? What happened? North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat. The mountain collapse. China seeking North Korea commitment to fire short, long-range ballistic missiles pre-election. Q. Now, what Q is referring to was, do you remember the missile threat on Hawaii back in 2018, I believe? And it was in December. Might have even been 2017. And then there was a mountain collapse in North Korea because they blew up their nuclear facility in North Korea and killed the scientist inside. Q drop 4829. It's a screenshot of this missile that was launched. And I believe this missile was from Whidbey Island when President Trump was flying from Canada to Singapore to meet with Kim Jong-un. And then a closer look of this missile in the picture. And Q asked, do you remember when they told you this was a helicopter? Q. And then Q drop 4830. How much was John McCain and the McCain Institute paid to peddle the Christopher Steele dossier? What is the going rate for a United States Senator to knowingly push false, unverified intel to the FBI to lend credibility? Q. Q drop 4831. Why did Paul Ryan refuse and block all subpoena requests by Republican committee chairs? What is the going rate for the Speaker of the House to obstruct congressional investigations for the purpose of delaying and or eliminating its findings? Protect. Why did Paul Ryan initially refuse to be Speaker? What was coming? Why did Paul Ryan retire at such a young age? Q. Well, he was forced out, folks, and he will be arrested, if not already. Finally, Q.4832 from October 7th. Shadow president, shadow government, information warfare, irregular warfare, color revolution, insurgency. Q. Let's go to the headlines from Thursday. Now, President Trump's physician, this is from October the 8th, clears him for public engagement starting Saturday. Now, I believe President Trump is scheduled to rally for Florida here very soon. Deep state fear. Former FBI General Counsel James Baker's notes were released yesterday and confirmed that General Michael Flynn's innocence, and may also indicate that James Baker has flipped. Meanwhile, Twitter locks out former Director of National Intelligence and Ambassador Rick Grenell over voter fraud warning. Let's go to Q drops from Thursday. And Q posts a montage of the missiles as it is linked to Nancy Pelosi calling for the 25th Amendment. As Q wrote all the way back on February 15th, 2019, remember the cover story for this and the picture of the missiles. A helicopter. Coincidence regarding Air Force One regarding California route to North Korea. Bigger than the 25th Amendment attempt to remove. Depth of this is very serious, Q. So again, Q had talked about the 25th Amendment, which Nancy Pelosi now is pushing forward in the House of Representatives. So we're looking at Q drop 4833 and Q adds, nothing is random. Everything has meaning, Q. Q drop 4834. And it's a meme that President Trump had put out of all these folks in jail at Gitmo. And it reads, now that Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? And Anon asks, we need justice. We are ready. Let's go. Where we go one, we go all. And Q responds to that with a graphic which reads, in it together. Where we go one, we go all. Q drop 4836. Q writes, was the 25th Amendment an arrow in the quiver planned? How long ago? Was it expected the president would be in a critical health state regarding COVID-19? Recovery unexpected. Impossible to unwind. Next, mentally incapacitated regarding C-19 language. People are dying. Safety and security to the well-being. Combat tactics, Mr. Ryan, Q. So Q is talking a lot about Paul Ryan. Is Paul Ryan behind a lot of this stuff that's going on right now? Q drop 4837, and it's a graphic of Nancy Pelosi, a cartoon of Nancy Pelosi, and she's got quivers. She's got arrows in her quiver. And it's a quote, we have options. We have arrows in our quiver, and that I'm not about to discuss right now. But the fact is, we have a big challenge in our country. And the quivers are riots and impeachment, looting, and also there looks like there's a missile in the quiver. Did you notice the missile within the drop regarding the 25th Amendment? Q asks. Q. Q drop 4838. What happens if the CIA was actively involved in domestic targeting and the surveillance of U.S. persons, direct and indirect? How does one agency attach itself to another? And a link to the CIA website. Top CIA myths. Right there on the CIA website. The CIA, and it's a quote here that Q puts up. The CIA is restricted in the collection of intelligence information directed against U.S. citizens. Collection is allowed only for an authorized intelligence purpose. For example, if there are reason to believe that an individual is involved in espionage or international terrorist activities, the CIA's procedures require senior approval for any such collection that is allowed, and depending on the collection technique employed, the sanction of the Director of the National Intelligence and Attorney General may be required. And Q adds, look here, FBI, look here, DOJ, do not look here, CIA, Q. Now, the history of the CIA is very strange. It is rumored that the Nazis, who supposedly lost World War II, basically blackmailed the U.S. to take the SS, the Nazi SS, and combine it with the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which was military intelligence, to form the CIA back in the 1940s. So from the very start, the CIA was founded by Nazis. Q drop 4840. Who was DNI? Who was AG? CIA leads to the top, Q. So, of course, back then, the Director of National Intelligence was James Clapper. Who was the Attorney General? Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder. Q drop 4840 continues. And Anon puts up the picture of Gina Haspel, the new director of the CIA, and a tweet from John Brennan. Stream capture. Senators, show that you put country above politics. Gina Haspel is a competent, experienced, and highly qualified intelligence professional. Ask her tough questions. Listen to her answers. And then decide. But don't penalize her for previous policy decisions or because Donald Trump picked her. So John Brennan gave his blessing to Gina Haspel back on May 7th, 2018. And remember, Donald Trump chose Gina Haspel to be CIA director after Mike Pompeo was moved to the State Department. And Q asks, why did John Brennan endorse? Why did the president select as director? Buckle up, Q. So something big is about to come out about the CIA. Q drop 4841. It's a screen capture, a graphic of the Shield of Faith. And it reads, in addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. And then Q adds, keep firing, Nancy. Q. Now it's referring to the quivers, the arrows in Nancy Pelosi's quiver. Q drop 4842. Now this is amazing, folks. Listen to this. The COVID survival rate. This is a graphic that was on Fox News. From ages 0 to 19 years, it's a 99.997 survival rate. From age 20 to 49, 99.98% survival rate. From age 50 to 69, 99.5%. From 70 years and beyond, it's a 94.6 survival rate. That's pretty good. So,
Gotta get a little video.
Q writes here. Let's go to this rest of this Q drop. Total U.S. deaths, all causes. In 2017, total deaths, U.S., 2,813,503. That's 234,000 per month. That's from the CDC. In 2018, total deaths, U.S., 2,839,205. That's 237 per month from the CDC. 2019, total U.S. deaths, 2,839,205. 855,000. That's 238,000 per month. 2020, total U.S. deaths from January to the week of September the 26th, 2,130,000. That's 236,000 per month. Q adds 2,130,000 plus 236,000 per month times 3. October, November, December equals 2,838,000. Assumption based on a monthly average. 2020, a 3-month, for 3-month assumption insert, 2,838,000 deaths. In 2019, 2,855,000. 2018, 2,839,000. In 2017, 2,814,000. So why did select Democratic governors push C-19 infected patients into nursing homes? Percent of total C-19 deaths attributed to nursing homes. Who is the most susceptible? Some Democratic governors who push C-19 infected patients into nursing homes, attempting to keep states closed. Why? Q. So, folks, in other words, this whole coronavirus pandemic has really not affected the average yearly death rate in America. Now, let's go to the headlines here. Let's go to Friday, October 9th. Finally, Claire Brofman of the Seagram's empire becomes the first NXIVM sex slave trafficker to get jail time. Wow. Meanwhile, Adam Schiff is quoted as saying, I would favor doing away with the Electoral College. See, the Democrats are radical insurgents that want to overthrow the U.S. government and change our entire system. Speaker Pelosi invests hundreds of thousands of dollars in firm behind Russia collusion hoax CrowdStrike. Oh, smoking gun. Meanwhile, President Trump came out and said, very disappointed that the Obamagate investigation won't be released before the election. He's not disappointed. He knows exactly what's planned out. This is all a strategic military operation you're witnessing, folks. And he's just saying that to throw people off the scent. Meanwhile, this guy named Keith Olbermann, he used to be on MSNBC. I don't know what he does now, but he came out and said this. All Donald Trump supporters are, quote, maggots and must be prosecuted. Trump and his supporters must be prosecuted, convicted, and removed from our society. This guy is an absolute lunatic, filled with venom and hate, and claiming to be a liberal, tolerant liberal. Amazing. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, have endorsed Joe Biden for president. And a GOP lawmaker, Jason Smith, a Republican from Missouri, has introduced a new law demanding that the United Kingdom strip Meghan and Harry's royal titles from them for interfering in the U.S. election. Now, here is massive news I have to report tonight, folks. On October 9th at 4:12 p.m., just in, the White House blocked the CDC order requiring masks on all forms of public and commercial transportation in the United States of America. So the CDC tried to get everybody who was going to fly on a plane, ride on a train, a bus, they have to wear a mask. It's by law. And the White House basically said, no way. Awesome. Meanwhile, someone else on Twitter posted this. As you know, President Trump has been working to lower drug prices, pharmaceuticals, and he really angered the CEOs of Big Pharma. But someone on Twitter wrote this. My daughter's insulin has already dropped from $700 a month to $48 a month due to President Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump. Excellent job. Interesting, isn't that? Let's go to Q drops now. And let's go to October 9th. Now, it has come out that Mike Pompeo said, of course, that Clinton emails could be released before the election, as we told you about. And Q posted that link to the New York Post article. And he said, don't believe everything you read. And that was Q drop number 4843. And then an anon asked in number Q drop 4844. Well, that was the shortest live excitement we've all had to date, meaning is Mike Pence not to be believed? Actually, not Mike Pence, but Mike Pompeo. And Q says he wasn't referring to Kansas' statement regarding the Clinton emails. Kansas, of course, is Q's nickname for Mike Pompeo. Q drop 4845, a link to Hillary Clinton's status on Twitter. And she writes, on March 4th, 2015, I want the public to see my email. I asked State to release them. They said they will review them for release as soon as possible. Well, so much for as soon as possible, because they're about ready to come out here finally in 2020. And Q adds, roger that, Madam Secretary. C in brackets equals classified, according to the State Department, in a link to the Business Insider. Hillary Clinton said she didn't know what the C markings in her emails stood for. So, a likely story, right? Do you believe Hillary Clinton wouldn't know something like that? Highly, highly unlikely. Of course she was lying. And Q drop 4845. Clinton Foundation plus Soros, journalist, director, Africa, Saudi Arabia, special access programs, China, Russia, Uranium One, Barack Obama Hussein, director, Benghazi, Muslim Brotherhood, CIA assets, crimes against humanity, route from Huma Abedin to Anthony Weiner's backup laptop. Nothing is ever truly deleted. Threats, blackmail, and bribes, Q. So guess what, folks? Guess what? The Hillary emails are going to come out, and then they're going to release the contents of Anthony Weiner's laptop, where all the emails, messages from Hillary to Huma Abedin were backed up and saved, and they have it all. Again, let's go back to this message put out on Twitter. We played you Mike Pompeo talking to Dana Perino, says the emails are going to come out. And someone on Twitter then said, there will be no arrest before the election. The emails come first. That will be the big October surprise, folks. The big kahuna. The release of Hillary Clinton's emails is the big October surprise for 2020. The emails are how you introduce all of this to the public. The emails will lead to the arrest. Okay? So that's how it's going to work. And this is how perfect that nearly 4 years to the day, the emails will be their undoing once again. Boomerang. See how this is going to happen now? Email, Hillary's emails, Anthony Weiner laptop, then President Trump is reelected, and maybe Joe Biden is forced to resign. We'll see. And before the election, if President Trump is reelected, then the arrest can happen. That is the October surprise we have been waiting for. Okay? Now let's go to some headlines for the weekend. Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks is a singer for Fleetwood Mac, famous rock group. Get this. Well, this is an article that was put out on Breitbart. Stevie Nicks contemplates leaving Earth if Donald Trump wins the election. Quote, "We're not welcome anywhere. I'm thinking, space." Well, remember how they all promised they were going to leave if Donald Trump got elected in 2016? Well, none of them did. Now, listen to this. Is another big story, folks. Just today, it's been learned that the WHO has backflipped on their virus stance by condemning lockdowns. The WHO now is condemning lockdowns right before the election. Now, today, on the Maria Bartiromo show, President Trump has been everywhere, all over the news. He sat down with Rush Limbaugh for 3 hours on Friday, and then he was on Tucker Carlson, and today he was on Maria Bartiromo, and he said this. Let's play this clip from Maria Bartiromo today on the Sunday morning show on the Fox News, and listen to what the President Trump said.
You authorized the declassification of these documents, but what does that do if we don't have John Durham and Bill Barr following up? Can you demand that they release this? People are still sitting on documents.
Yeah, I hope they're going to. And I will say this, documents are being released at a level now that nobody's ever seen before. Things that nobody thought were going to get released have been released. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it all the time. You're seeing what's going on. We caught them cold. We have them cold. And now they have to do something about it. But other documents are going to be released, Maria, which are breathtaking. Wait till you see what's coming up.
Oh, really?
Breathtaking.
Is it about Hillary Clinton, or is it about the FBI that's coming out?
About everything. It's about everything. Hillary Clinton is Crooked Hillary. I don't call her Crooked Hillary for nothing. And, just the one thing, I keep going back to it. She got a subpoena from the United States Congress, right? She got a subpoena. How do you get rid of your emails after you get a subpoena? She got text messages, emails, etc. How do you do that? It's criminal. What she did is criminal.
Well,
You
told me for my book, when we did the interview for my book, that there are people in government that are just protected. I guess she's protected.
Well, they're trying like hell, but we got them. We have found things that nobody can believe. Nobody can believe what we found. And I'll tell you what, the level at which we found them, people are shocked, they're stunned, and let's see what happens. But Hillary Clinton was totally crooked. And so were plenty of other people.
I've got to ask you this.
Okay, folks, I hope you heard that. He said the level of these documents are breathtaking. You see what's happening now? Do you see how this is all coming together? So first you release all the evidence for the American people to see. You time it right before the 2020 presidential election on November 3rd. You time it so it all just keeps building and building and building. And it reflects back on the candidate running in opposition, namely Joe Biden. Then, after President Trump is successfully reelected by a landslide, then you can do the arrest. So this is how it's all shaping out, how it's all coming down, which will be followed by the global reset and GESARA. But GESARA, of course, is already well underway. GESARA, and maybe we'll see the Restored Republic come into being. But this is how it's all lining up. Now, coming up tomorrow, Monday, October the 12th, guess what? Amy Coney Barrett Senate confirmation is going to take place beginning tomorrow. Now, this is going to be a very contentious hearing, I'm sure, just like Brett Kavanaugh, maybe even worse. However, Fox News reported Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearing to be on October 12th as Senate ramps up COVID precautions. Lindsey Graham today said, also on Maria Bartiromo's show, predicted that Amy Coney Barrett will be confirmed to the Supreme Court no later than October the 27th. So that's well before the election. That's a good 7 days. Again, this is all getting ready. Should the Democrats try and contest the election? Should they try and sabotage the election or whatever? Again, will we see some kind of event around the election? Perhaps we will. Now, also upcoming this Friday, I believe, let's see, 17th is Friday, right? No, that's Saturday. Of course, President Trump has a rally scheduled for Dallas, Texas. As we mentioned on our Wednesday call, of course, Dallas is, President Donald Trump is coming to Dallas October 17th for a Keep America Great campaign rally. Okay, it's the first 2020 rally for President Trump in Dallas, and his campaign says he plans to highlight Texas economy. Now, of course, Dallas, Texas is the infamous location for the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, which occurred on November 22nd, 1963. Now, this combination of October 17th in the city of Dallas, Texas, of course, 17 being the letter Q, and Dallas being all associated with JFK, you wonder if something is up. And there is a rumor, just a rumor, that John F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be introduced. And we're going to just have to treat this, for now, purely as a rumor. I cannot confirm this. I cannot validate this in any way, shape, or form, but this is a rumor. And it reads, JFK Jr. is scheduled to reveal himself publicly at President Trump's October 17th rally in Dallas, Texas, which is precisely 17 days before the November 3rd election, and he will be declared President Trump's running mate. So, we'll see what happens, as I quote the president. Nonetheless, I thought Mike Pence, vice president, the double, the lookalike, the clone, or whoever, did an admirable job during the debate. He held his own. He was calm. He was cool and collected. So it will be a surprise to the American people if, of course, you bring a dead man back from oblivion, and you introduce him as your vice president. So I'm cautiously optimistic, although I'm not sure that this is going to happen. Now, back, let's see. Let me look at this date here. Back on the Q message boards, let's go back to June 24th, 2018. And on the 8chan message boards, this message was put out by someone claiming to be R, just the letter R. You know, we have Q and then we have R. And it read, now I'm going to treat this as totally as a rumor. Can't confirm the validity of any of this either. In 1909, we lost everything. My father caught on, first to the Bilderbergers, then he caught on the NASA. He demanded to know who the Greys were and why they were here. They killed him. I strategically staged my own death and allied with the one person in this world whom I knew was honorable enough to trust, and we began to build the plan. Penance is coming. Regardless of what you think, you are not yet awake. You do not know how deep this goes. If you knew, you could not sleep. Many of you could never go on. You need each other. You need every one of you. Learn to play nice with each other or be left behind. If one stumbles, pick them up. If one asks a question, give them the answer. This is how we grow. There is no room in the plan for arrogance and self-importance. If you turn one away, you've hurt the plan. If you hurt the plan, you'll be left behind. We are watching. We see it all. There are no secrets. You would never believe the files kept on every one of you. For that matter, you'd never believe where they are kept. Prepare for the next phase. Prepare each other. You are one. And where we go one, we go all. Are. Again, that was a message that was put out on June 24, 2018 on the 8chan message boards. And R was rumored to be Junior, JFK's Junior, namely. Now, Q has since distanced himself from this message. However, sometimes disinformation is necessary. We shall see what happens coming almost this next weekend on the 17th of October, 2020 in Dallas, Texas. You might want to tune in for that rally. So we'll see what happens. All right, so that's going to do our intel for tonight, folks. Again, I want to remind everybody, those who are interested in ordering the CDs from the Ron the Inventor program from September 13th, please send me an email. If I haven't responded, make sure I have your mailing address so I can mail them to you. And those will be coming